Hey there guys, today we're going to be talking about the brand new LOONA album Plus Plus. This is their official debut EP and I was really looking forward to it, and I wasn't disappointed. I'll get to my overall thoughts at the end, but let's go by track. Plus Plus is the intro track. It is very much an intro track. There's not actually much to it. I've read somewhere it's a mashup of the 3 intros to the 3 different EPs that were released by the subunits even of LOONA. Now I haven't actually gone back and checked this. I've listened to all 3 of those EPs and I've liked all of them, but I can't actually recognize whether it is actually a mashup. Reportedly it is, but I haven't been able to check. But it's a really smooth intro. It's got this absolutely brilliant electric guitar lead. It's got like a little bit of funk to it, especially right at the beginning, and it completely sets the sounds that you hear throughout the rest of the album. The same type of instruments, percussion, that sort of thing. But overall there's not actually much to it. It's very short and it just leads in incredibly well. So the second track on this album is Hi Hi. It's also one of the single releases. We got a music video for it, what was it, 2.5 days ago or whatever. It's a pretty decent track overall. I do have some issues with it though. The production on it is pretty bland overall. It focuses on this electronic synth melody and it's got these fairly basic flat drums. It doesn't sound all that interesting, and having listened to it a fair few times, I'm pretty bored of it already. It's extremely reliant on its harmonies and this catchy chorus, which is not particularly interesting. It just sticks in your head. However, there are some really nice vocal portions throughout. There's this superb moment about 2.5 minutes in. I'm not sure who does the vocals, but the beat slows down. We get a lovely drop and we get these really soft, smooth R&B type vocals. Really nice. You know, this song it's so fast, like the BPM must be mad on this. I didn't actually check to see what it was. It's such an energetic and intense song. Sometimes I was a little bit overblown. Listening through your speakers as well, it's a little bit sort of in your face and a little bit too cheery at points. So yeah, not my favorite song on this album, but by no means a bad title track, and I can see the huge appeal. It is definitely a pop appealing song and I can see it doing quite well in the charts. Next up is the other single off this album. It was released about a week prior. This is Favorite. I really liked this when it came out and I still do. You know, there's energy in this song from the first second. The instrumental, it's slightly more intense in the layering. It's a little bit more blurry compositionally. It's superb. Overall, it's a far more interesting track than Hi Hi. There's this really fun pre-chorus and there's so much more influences on this song. I do get a little bit of a trap feel. There's some ad-libs throughout which sound great. And you know, it's not a pure dance pop song like some of the songs on this mini album. There's a lot more influences on it, and yeah, I think this is probably one of my favorite songs on the album. There's also, you know, decent vocals throughout. You know, LOONA, they have a lot of really solid vocalists in there. Nothing absolutely spectacular for the moment, but this was definitely a dance pop album, so I'm not expecting them to be showing off their full range of vocals already. You know, this is still very early days for them. Next up is a very decent B-side track. This is 9. I'm assuming that's what the translation to the Hangul actually is. There's this really smooth horn synthesizer layered into this instrumental. Sounds really good. It's throughout the whole song, only breaking off during certain portions of the melody. There's definitely some dancehall influence here. It's not, you know, the predominant genre of this song, but there is some influence there with the laid back instrumental. It's so much slower, it's got far less energy, but personally I think this is one of the better songs on that album because they just pull it off with aplomb. It's quite polished overall. The lyrics are a little bit lacking in my opinion, not their most interesting. But I would say this whole song, I think it complements the girls' voices better than really any of the other songs on here. Just the whole vibe of it. I don't really think that high pitch, high energy vocal track like on Hi Hi really suits the girls as much as this sort of a track did. But now we move on to Perfect Love. This is a pretty forgettable track, you know, to be completely honest. It's pretty forgettable. I was not into this at all. There's nothing really inherently wrong with this. I'd say there's a little bit more R&B influence on the track overall, but the instrumental, it's so sleepy and bland. The layering is so flat and the chorus is pretty uninteresting, uninspired to be honest. It's just not an ambitious track. It's such a filler track on this mini album, but you know, I am expecting to hear those things early days for LOONA. You know, they have to discover their feet, and I've seen people actually enjoying it though, so I think it's more personal taste than anything. And then we have Stylish. This, I think this has been the most popular B-side so far from what I've seen from people. It's got this smooth intro and this superb build-up. It utilizes this really fast drum beat, but it doesn't really build up to this massive drop. In fact, it just relies on these vocals to lead it through the whole song, really fluctuating it, and it sounds really, really good. I would say this song uses the members in the most positive and cohesive way. You know, there's not this awkward switching between each of the vocal parts. Overall, it works incredibly well. Yeah, this is probably the most interesting track genre-wise on the album. There definitely is a lot of dance pop influence, but once again, I do get a little bit of a hip-hop feel. It sounds a little bit more Western in general. Overall, the album does have a little bit too much pop appeal for my taste, but there is definitely some experimentation in there. I personally preferred the subgroup EPs a little bit more, thought there was a little bit more experimentation, a little bit darker. So I've seen people actually talking about, you know, the differences between the main group LOONA and all the different subsections, and they seem to think the whole group will in general do the more sort of pop appeal songs that are going to appeal in Korea, which I completely understand. It makes a lot of sense to me and I'm fine with that, but you know, overall this album, it does leave a lot to be desired, but there's so much potential in this group. I'm really impressed with the group so far. There's a lot of room to improve, but like I said, lots of potential, so I'm going to give this a solid 5. Lots of room at the top, but it's certainly not a bad piece of music, so it's not going to drop below a 5. It's a solid up there 5. So yeah, thank you very much for watching. I hope you have enjoyed. This is going to be Gino signing out. See you guys soon.